So we're going to do Parashat Vayetze. We saw that Avraham Avinu was tested. He had nisyonot. Yitzhak had his nisayon, especially in the Akedah. They were tested. Now Yaakov has a test in Parashat Vayetze. A very big test, a difficult test. What is that test? Living for so many years with Lavan. A dishonest man, right? A liar, a cheater. How do you deal with that? So there's a lot of important lessons in this week's Parasha on how to deal with a situation like that, where an individual sees himself either working for, hopefully not married to one, but living with a person, or being in the same business with somebody like who's not honest. What should you do? He cheats you, should you cheat him back? This is a very big test. And Yaakov demonstrates his integrity, that he's honest despite everything. He doesn't cheat Lavan just because Lavan cheats him. On the contrary, he's extra careful to make up whatever is lost. Any sheep that dies, that gets injured, he makes sure to make it up for him. That he should never have any complaints on him. Did it help that he was honest? Not really, because Lavan anyway was not impressed and attempted to do whatever he can to get at him. But it doesn't mean that Yaakov had to stoop to that level, and become like Lavan. So there is a nisayon, there's a test over here of not learning from Lavan, being exposed to that kind of environment. There's also the nisayon of not taking revenge. He cheats me, why shouldn't I cheat him back? Make up for the losses. No. And there are various stages that he's cheated, beginning with marriage itself, promising him Rachel and giving him Leah first, even though in the end he married Rachel. And later, in the actual business of taking care of the animals and wages, he's being cheated many, many times. A very important point is learned from this, that regardless of what the situation is, that even though the person is wronged, it doesn't mean that, what's the saying in English? Two wrongs don't make a right?
Two wrongs don't make a
right?
Yeah.
You can't correct the situation by stooping down to his level. On the contrary, a person who maintains his integrity and his truthfulness, it could be that the other person will learn from him. It may just be that he will be sanctifying Hashem's name, it will be a Kiddush Hashem, and even though there's a halacha that if a goy makes a mistake, he gave you too much change, you don't have to give it back to him. Ta'ut goy. Ta'ut. He made a mistake, you don't have to go back, you don't have to go out of your way to give it back to him. You can't steal from him. Gezel asur. But ta'ut is ta'ut. It's not like an aveda, like a Jew's object that is lost, and you see it, and you know what it belongs to. There's a mitzvah of giving it back, returning it, announcing that you found something. There's a mitzvah of ashavat aveda.
Even if it's good.
No, I'm talking about with the Jew.
No, if you find something.
No, so there's no obligation. You don't have to go out of your way for everybody in the world if you find something. But there are certain mitzvot that apply amongst the Jews. Right? It's a good thing to give charity and take care of everybody, but there's an obligation, or much more of a mitzvah, to do it for your own brothers and sisters. So with a goy, he made a ta'ut, he made a mistake, you don't have to fix his mistake, you don't have to bring it to his attention. However, what happens if you do? Aren't you perhaps doing a Kiddush Hashem? That you will have a good name, and the Jewish people have a good reputation. Unfortunately, in many, many countries, they've had a terrible reputation as being thieves, or corrupt, or doing all sorts of things. Yeah, and that could be partially true. A lot of it is, of course, exaggerated, but partially could be true because there have been people who would do things not right, even though they were Jewish, and even if they were religious, and that would leave them with leave the rest of the people with a terrible label. Understand? For example, in Switzerland, Switzerland is a very clean country, right? It's supposed to be a clean country. If you see wrappers of chewing gum in the park, they say those wrappers were dropped off by Israelis.
Who said that?
That's what they say in Israel.
I mean,
in Israel, when you go to Switzerland and you find,
I see. They
when you find papers, wrappers in the park, the Israelis did it. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but they have that reputation. People have been seen at the customs in Israel bringing back faucets. Israelis bringing back faucets that they took away from a hotel that they were in Turkey. They like the faucet, it's mine. They bring the towels. This is unfortunately. People can stoop down to this level. Why? Because sometimes they justify it. So when a person lies or cheats, he doesn't do it necessarily thinking that it's wrong. Very few people are that bad. A lot of people justify it. It's okay. He's got a lot of money anyway.
It's only a towel, right?
It's only a towel, right? It's only an ashtray.
I'm paying too much for the room anyway.
I pay too much. Exactly. I like that. I'm paying too much for the room anyway. It's all included.
Yeah.
They have insurance. People have come over to me. Can I make a claim against him? He's insured anyway. It won't cost him. It's going to cost the insurance company, right? That's called gezel and sheker and other things too. So we are all always put on in this type of a nisayon. Various types and various degrees of nisyonot, of challenges and tests. And if a person, of course, holds himself back and controls himself, especially if he has a hard time in this area, he loves money, right? Then the reward is even greater because he's holding himself back. Yaakov, of course, was a man of integrity and he was truthful. His challenge was just not learning from the ways of Laban, and that's a very, very difficult challenge because when you are with somebody for many, many years, it is very possible that you will absorb something from his ways. Anyway, he held himself back. Now, even though he lived with Laban and did not learn from his bad ways, nevertheless he did learn something from Laban. Even from bad people, from cheaters, from liars, you could learn something. I'll tell you a story and you'll see what I mean. Rabbi Elyahu Kin was once collecting tzedakah for Pidyon Shvuim. Pidyon Shvuim is a very big mitzvah. It means to take out people from prison, as long as they're not criminals. It's a big mitzvah. A lot of them were in jail for no reason whatsoever, just because they were Jewish. So anyway, he went around communities collecting money for this mitzvah. He was having a rough time. He wasn't collecting too much money, and he felt, perhaps I should go back home and sit and learn Torah. I'm wasting my time. As he's thinking and having second thoughts, somebody comes up to him and says, there's a individual, a Jew, that was caught stealing, a thief, and he's in jail. Maybe you want to speak to him? He says, of course. I'll give him a little bit of musar. He goes to visit the Jew in jail. He tells the Jew, you see what you did? Not only didn't you get to keep your money, but you also landed yourself in jail. It doesn't pay to do this, he says. Hopefully when you get out, you've learned your lesson, you won't do it again. He says, no, Rabbi, you're wrong. This time I was caught, next time they won't catch me. I'm going to try harder. Rabbi Elyahu said, I just learned a very important lesson from the thief. A true lesson. This man doesn't give up. He stole and he wants to steal again. And he doesn't give up. He was caught once and he's going to try next time that they don't detect him. Why should I give up? I didn't succeed today, I'll succeed with Hashem tomorrow. See, I just learned something from a Ganab. So you see, Yaakov Avinu possibly thought the same. Look at this Lavan. He steals, but he does it with so much enthusiasm. He does it, with lahavut. He's excited about it, with such zeal. That is the way to serve Hashem. To do it consistently, and not to give up. So there's always something to learn from everybody. The next point is an obvious question that everybody should ask. Okay, Yaakov didn't learn from Lavan. Why didn't Lavan learn from Yaakov? In other words, Yaakov, of course, had to hold himself back not to learn from Lavan, his terrible ways. But Lavan, who saw this man, this relative of his, such a wonderful individual, why didn't he learn from him? I mean, just like a good person can learn from a bad person, Halila, why should a bad person learn from a good person? Can't that happen too? It should. It could happen. It definitely could. It definitely could happen. But the question is, why didn't Lavan learn anything from Yaakov? So we talked a little bit about it last week, that one of the most difficult things for people to do is to admit that they are wrong, to admit their mistakes. A person who lies, the rabbis tell us, after a while he begins to believe in his lies. He begins to believe in his lies. Now, and the rabbis tell us, to be a liar requires tremendous memory. A very, very good memory. You have to remember your lies, because they may catch you later. So you have to remember all the stories you made up, all the things you said. That's very, very difficult. That is why a lot of liars eventually are caught. Cross-examination. But you said it this way, but no, I meant this. What do you mean you meant this? Right? Anyway, so a person who's used to lying will always have difficulty correcting his ways, because eventually, after a while, he gets used to this habit. He begins to believe that what he said and what he does is right, and that makes it more difficult. For the good person to learn from the bad person is a lot easier, unfortunately. Like they say with a rotten apple, you put it next to a good apple, the good apple will spoil, not the other way around. As we mentioned with the argument that Sarah had with Abraham. Sarah says, get this Ishmael out of my house. And what is Abraham's thinking? Yitzhak will be a good influence over Ishmael. Sarah says, no way, Ishmael will be a bad influence for Isaac. Who was right? Hashem says, listen to your wife, she knows better. And it's common sense. The bad, unfortunately, has much more koach to influence the good than the other way around. So even though it's true, the bad person, the thief, has opportunities to learn, some people never learn. Even when things are obvious to them. The best example, perhaps, is with the scientists, and with geologists, and with anthropologists. Some of you may have heard already, of course, of the various theories on evolution, Darwinism, etc. What is the problem with that? First of all, the first problem is it's only a theory, and they make it sound that it's a fact. All it is a theory. The second problem is that they're not willing to listen to any other opinions or theories. Why? Because they've already made up their mind. This is the way it is. Now, I'm going to go out and try to prove or build my case based on that. But sir, what happens if you find something that will destroy your theory? That's not possible. I'll give you an example. In Texas there's a river where they found dinosaur prints next to human prints. That was a big commotion. Why? Because according to science, man did not live at the same time as dinosaurs. And here you see man's prints, footprints, next to dinosaur prints. So it was a big commotion, right? Hey, you guys are wrong! Not only did they live together, it must be that the dinosaurs are not millions of years old, therefore. By inference, in other words, if they live together, and we know man only lived a few thousand years, so dinosaurs are not the millions of years old. So said no. What's their explanation for human footprints next to dinosaur footprints? It's so obvious, right? Somebody came at night and chiseled the human footprints next to the dinosaur prints. Somebody at night sneaked into the river and somehow chiseled out the human footprints. Could you believe that? They will not accept anything that goes, because they've already decided dinosaurs did not live with human beings. Where did you make that decision? No, it just makes sense like that. Because dinosaurs had to live millions of years ago, because we found fossils in certain stones, and these stones are millions of years old. Therefore, the dinosaurs are millions of years old. Now, who told you the stones are millions of years old? They made a decision.
Yeah.
So, everything is based on a decision that was made. And once you make a decision, it's very hard, if you find something that goes against it, that contradicts it, to change your mind about it. They've made a decision that there was no Halila, no creation. There's no such a thing as a God Halila. Everything, so how do we explain everything? Big Bang. And one scientist was asked, but you, sir, you're a smart man, right? You know statistically that the chances of the world forming by itself are 1 to the billions of power. Many, many zeros. In other words, which means it's almost impossible. So what do you have to say about that? She says, yes, but we're here. You see what I said? You see what he said? Yes, it's true, I agree, but what can I do? We're here. In other words, meaning, yes, so it happens, it's a freak accident. He's not willing to admit that there's another possibility exists, that a creator made the world and all the creatures in this world. And all the existence came about by design. No, that's not possible. Why not? No, because I already made a decision. So when a person lives his life with certain ideas in his mind, and he's unbending, set in his ways, unbending, with not an open mind, he's going to have a hard time learning from others. And there are people that by their nature, that's the way they are. Very, very stubborn. They're not necessarily liars, but they're stubborn in their ways, and people who are stubborn have a harder time learning from others. Now, a person who's, of course, a thief, a liar, he may not necessarily be stubborn by nature, but he has to protect himself. It's a different kind of a problem. And in order to protect himself, psychologically, emotionally, or whatever, he has to defend himself. And by doing so, he does not allow his mind to perhaps listen to what others have to say. In Yiddish there's a saying, seek everybody's advice. Listen to what everybody has to tell you. But you make the decision yourself. Does it hurt to listen to what everybody has to say? Maybe you'll hear some good opinions. Don't rely on your own judgment. Don't just be stubborn and think that you know what's best and what's right. Be open. Now obviously certain things by us in Judaism are set in stone, our emunah. But it's only set in stone because it's obvious. There are facts. It can be proven. It can be demonstrated. It's not blind either. And then the Torah tells us, nevertheless, be careful that nobody should come and try to dissuade you, to discourage you, to remove you from the Torah by making up all sorts of stories. You saw, your forefathers saw, it was handed down for so many years. So who are the people that unfortunately fall away, who are prey to all this influence? People who are ignorant. A Jew has to be learned. A Jew has to know his tradition. He has to know the Torah, so he's able to defend his heritage. Otherwise, that brings about a certain weakness, which exposes him to the elements, and he falls. Yaakov, as I explained last week, even though he knew he was going to the home of Lavan, where he would be exposed to terrible people, to these elements, but he was strong. He had a good background, a good upbringing, and he was a man of integrity. He was truthful. He had all the kelim to be able to withstand the pressures of that environment. But otherwise, one has to be very careful. So the more learned one is, the more Yirat Shamayim one has, the less the chances are of him being affected. But the other way around, bad people to learn from good, it does not happen very easily. A person has to be willing to be open-minded, to see what others have to say, and be willing to admit, perhaps I may be wrong, perhaps I did make a mistake. All those people who go to arachim, who go to seminars, who go to learn, is because of what? Well, some of them either because of curiosity, I have to admit, but many of them because they're willing to say that maybe I can learn something. That first step is a very difficult step to take. You know why? Because there are a lot of people who know the truth or who are afraid of the truth. They're afraid if they go there and they listen to the lectures, to all the evidence and all the proof, they're afraid Shem Yachzeru B'Tshuvah. So therefore they'd rather not go and not hear what has to be said so they don't change their ways. That's terrible. I feel bad for them. Don't you want what's best for you? Don't you want to make a wise decision? What's holding them back? Usually ta'avot, desires. They want to live a nice, good, comfortable life and enjoy everything there is to enjoy in this world. And anything that goes against that disturbs that, they don't want it. So people who lie, who cheat, and continue in this way, it's because they want to satisfy something, some ta'avah. What satisfaction do you get from lying? It must be that there's some ta'avot, some desire, either the desire for money or for something else, that you want to fulfill, and you're willing to do anything to defend, to protect those interests. Alright, and that is why Lavan, unfortunately, does not learn from Yaakov. And just like Lavan, there are other people in the same situation who will hear speech after speech, and it won't move them. Because that it may mean that they have to be willing to give up something. They may not be willing to give up something. Well, that's a big problem. All right. The next point is I think it's a pasuk. What is this pasuk? The pasuk says midvar sheker tirhak. That a person should be very distant from lying. He shouldn't do anything that even comes close to a lie. Some people, there's something called a white lie. That they think that it's okay, it's permissible once in a while. You have to be very careful. Moshe Feinstein was always very, very sad that he had to lie once in his life. And what was that once? When he was trying to get out of Russia, communism. And he had to say a lie by immigration. Not here, in Russia. So even though that was the time that you were allowed to save your skin, nevertheless he still felt bad that he had to say something that he never did, and that was a lie. Just a few quick examples of what it means not to lie. The Gemara tells us about Rav Safra. Rav Safra had a store, and he didn't have customers every moment. So what do you do when there's no customers? You would say Tehillim like Isaac does, right? Very good thing to do. Learn halachot, whatever it is. And that's what this man was saying. He was saying Tehillim, or he was praying. So the man comes in, he wants to buy something, and he says, I'd like to buy this, How much is it? He gets no answer from Rav Safra. He says, maybe the man doesn't want to settle for $10. I'm going to offer him $15. Sir, I'll offer you more money if that's the problem. 15. No answer. 20. 25. He doubled the price. $30. Doesn't get an answer. And as soon as he finished up with the $30 price, the Safra turns to him, comes over and gives him what he wanted. He says the price is $15. But I was willing to give you 30. No, that was what I originally intended to sell it you for. The reason I didn't respond was not because I wanted a higher price, it's because I was praying. But I want to keep my word. This is what I intended from the very beginning, and I don't want to take advantage of you just because you didn't understand my motive for not answering. And you were willing to raise it. Nevertheless, this is what I was prepared to sell it to you for, and I stand by that. Tremendous Kiddush Hashem. There's a lot of stories in the Gemara. There's a story of Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair. Some people stopped by his house, and left some seeds, grain, and they forgot it by him. Left it, forgot it. So what does he do? They're Jews. Can't throw it away. He has to hold it. Maybe they'll come back. In the meantime, chaval, to leave seeds by themselves, they can rot. He can use them. He planted them, and a lot more grain grew. He harvested all that grain, and there was so much grain that he had to put it all in his barn. Tremendous amount of accumulated. A year later or so, these two individuals came back. They said, you know what, we forgot our grain here. Let's see if he still has it. He could have easily taken out a bag of grain and given it to them. Instead, he took them to the barn and says, all of this is yours. Go home and take your treasure with you. Honesty, truthfulness. You could have given them a little bit of grain. That's all you left. He invested it. It's theirs. He didn't want to take advantage. Another example of honesty is in areas where people are very not careful and use other people's property without asking permission. It was a story with the Chafetz Chaim. You know, in those days there were bathhouses. Not everybody had their own shower. So the Chafetz Chaim noticed how a person was using somebody else's towel. So the Chafetz Chaim goes over to him and says, those who use others' towels without asking permission, they are dirtier than than before. They are now dirtier than before. How could you do that? By taking something without asking for permission is gezel. It's a form of gezel. So there are various examples, various parts in our life, various areas where a person is challenged or tested all the time. You know, whether he's truthful or whether he's honest, whether he fulfills his promises, the nidarim that he makes. You know, a lot of people, for example, say the check is in the mail. The check is not in the mail. It's not going to be in the mail tomorrow. You know, don't say those things. It's a sheker. Or they go into a store. How much is this? How much is it? They don't intend to buy. You're not allowed to do that. You can't lead him on to believe that you want to buy and get him all excited for nothing. As long as you know to begin with that you don't intend to buy. That is why it's a good idea. If somebody asks you, "Can I help you?" I'm just looking around. Be truthful. You know, if that's all you're doing, I'm looking around. This is fine. Look around. It's very important, but it's hard for people who are not used to it. You know, it may be hard. You know, in the beginning. Yeah, in the beginning you may not want to say that because you feel uncomfortable. What do you mean looking around? This is not a museum. So you might feel, you know, I'm interested in buying this for my wife. Come on. When was the last time you bought something for your wife? Right? You think of some story. It's not true. Don't make up stories. So it's a matter of getting used to this, being very truthful. All right. The next point in the Parasha is that Yaakov tells Lavan, just because you tried to cheat me doesn't mean I lost anything. Hashem protected me. Akadosh Baruch Hu saw the pain and the suffering and my hard work and my honesty, and he protected me. Yeah, he knew that this exists. Sure. So what is Yaakov trying to say? That even though it's true that cheaters and thieves exist in this world, and it's true, and it's that you need to nevertheless be truthful, one needs not to be concerned about what will happen. Ultimately, Hashem protects those who are truthful. Doesn't mean that you don't have to take precautions, measures to protect yourself. As I said last week, there's an important rule of kabdil v'chashdil on everybody. be respectful, but be suspicious of anybody. You don't know who you're bringing into your home, right? So you have to be careful, but you have to respect everybody. But the point is still the same, that Hashem protects those who are tminim, who are naive, who don't know anything. If it's meant to happen, it will happen. If it's not meant to happen, he won't be able to do it. Something will go wrong. They're going to catch him. Hashem protects those who do not know how to protect themselves from these people. And this is a problem in a different way. It's a problem when somebody comes to your home and asks for tzedakah. And you're wondering if he really needs it or not. Perhaps he just pockets the money and uses it for something that is not legal. He plays with the money. He goes to Vegas with it. He buys booze, cigarettes. How do you know? The majority of people are honest. They really need it. The fact that they come from a great distance proves something. But you never know. There have been all sorts of stories with forgeries. They got letters, they show you all the things, but they're forged, they're not true. So what do you do? So I told you my rule. My rule is I'd rather be guilty of giving somebody who does not need it than being guilty of not giving to somebody who really needed it. And I was suspicious and give. Maybe not give as much, give less. Right? As you know, in Purim there's a rule, Kol poshet yad notnim lo. Purim, whoever stretches out his hand, you give. I use that rule almost the whole year. You need a little bit, don't get into the habit of refusing anybody, because then it becomes much easier the next time to refuse. So don't refuse unless you know the facts for sure. It's better to give and to help everybody, especially if there's a good chance that the letters that he has, or whatever proof that he has, is valid. Yeah. So the rabbis tell us, nevertheless, there is a zechut that some individuals have to give tzedakah only for good causes. There is such a zechut. Some people do not have the zechut to give to a good cause, and it ends up that the money that they made in a dishonest way eventually goes to this kind of thing. You don't deserve that your money, because it's unclean, should go to a good cause. That is why in Israel there's a big argument among certain segments, certain groups in Israel that do not take money from the government. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
You will have an institution come to you, an individual collecting funds. We need help. Our budget is $500,000 a year. Don't you get help from the government? No, we don't accept it. What do you mean you don't accept it? They offer you, take it. In Yiddish there's a saying, if somebody gives you something, take it. What's wrong with that? But there is, in the Kabbalah, a certain sensitivity towards receiving unclean money. There is such a sensitivity that it's not good. It's not always good, unless you put it to use for something which is unclean. Use it to pay Ahmed or Majid to clean the toilets. Use that not for that. But don't use it to buy food for the boys who learn in the yeshiva. So there are people who are careful not to take the money from yeshiva. What's the other argument? The other argument is, but that money is from the taxpayers, from us. Two arguments. The one says, it's our money anyway. It's our money, we pay taxes, so let's collect as much as we can for them. But it is true that there's a certain sensitivity, if some of that money is unclean at least, not taking it for holy causes. So as I said before, if a person earns his money, b'yashrut, in other words, honestly, it's clean, it's kosher, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mezakeh oto, as long as of course he's a tzaddik in other ways, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mezakeh oto, that his money or his tzedakah should go for good causes. And he sends the people that really, really need it. Those who do not have that zechut, Hashem makes sure that all these loafers and all these people that don't really need it, they should come get his money. He doesn't deserve the zechut of giving it because the money is not there. So anyway, that is the point of having emunah in Hashem, that even though you are doing the right thing, don't think that because of that people will abuse you. Don't let yourself, of course, be abused if you're aware of the situation. But you don't have to be concerned. You know, there's a expression in English of a sucker. You know, obviously it's not good to be one. Nobody wants to be one. And if you find out that somebody has a bad reputation, don't give him your daughter to his son. In other words, be wary of it. Don't do business with it. Don't become his partner. Investigate. There's been horror stories of people who thought that everything is okay. He has a long beard. He makes a good impression. He always smiles. He always invites me to lunch. Right? Don't be taken by that. Be suspicious of everybody. Find out, investigate. Don't trust yourself. Because when it comes to money, the Yetzer Hara is very, very powerful. So powerful that a lot of people, nichshalim, they fall in this trap. As the rabbi tells the Gemara, Ruban begezel mi'ut be'arayot v'kulam be'avak lashon hara. Ruban begezel means the majority of the people in the world. In other words, many people fall in the trap of gezel. Gezel doesn't mean armed robbery necessarily. Gezel could mean using somebody else's book without asking permission. In other words, people are not careful in this area of money. Using somebody's, I see this a lot in several places I've seen it. You pick up the phone, where it costs money for every phone call, and after they're already in the middle of the phone call, they say, I can use your phone, right? You already made the phone call, silly. You asked that question before. Maybe the guy doesn't, now he feels uncomfortable. What is he going to tell? No? Hang up? Alright? So, people are not sensitive to this. It's okay, mevater. In other words, how do you say mevater in English? He doesn't mind. He's forgiving. What's the big deal? It's a quarter. Yes, a quarter here, a quarter there.
Stamps.
What?
Stamps. With the office.
With stamps.
The stamps. So it's only left and what?
Chafetz Chaim was once at a train station. He came late. He needed to send some packages of his books. And then he went over to the clerk and tried to make new arrangements. He said, so the clerk tells him, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it for you. You don't have to pay me. The Chafetz Chaim says, no. You have no right to forgive the stamps, the expense, the cost. Only the owner has that right. Not you. You're an employee. See the honesty of the Chafetz Chaim? Chafetz Chaim was once accused by an official that came to visit him of being disrespectful to the Tsar. Why? Because he saw in the ashtray of the Chafetz Chaim stamps with Tsar that were torn. So he accused him of being disrespectful. Chafetz Chaim says, no, Chaz v'shalom, I'm very respectful. The reason why these stamps are torn is because I intended to send several pieces of mail, and I've had prepared them, and I was going to put the stamps on them. But somebody came by and did me a favor. It says, yeah, I'm going there anyway. I'll take him with me. So I already had prepared the stamps. This money was going to go to the government. I didn't want to take advantage of the government, and I tore the stamps up. This is already, of course, something which is on a much higher. You don't have to do that. But the official was very impressed how honest the Chafetz Chaim was not to cheat anybody, even though he was right in that case. Even if he was right, he was very, very careful, because Ruban begezer. Mi'ut be'arayot means that few people get caught in the avon of arayot, of anything that has to do with pornography, fornication, adultery, etc. And kulan, the avak lashon hara. Avak meaning the dust of lashon hara, of gossiping. Not everything is exactly lashon hara, but it could be avak, the dust. It could be similar to lashon hara. That's one of the most difficult areas to be careful with. But anyway, the reason I mentioned this is that rabbis emphasize how gezel or sheker, all these things, is an area where people easily fall, and one has to be therefore extra careful. All right. The next point in Parashat Vayetze is how Rachel, even though she was supposed to be the bride, she gave over the codes, the secret codes, to her sister Leah, in order that she should not be embarrassed. Rabbis, of course, learn from this something very, very important on how one has to be careful not to embarrass his friend, and how one who embarrasses his friend in public, the sin is so terrible that he may not have a chelek even in olam haba. Because it's very difficult to correct and fix. What are you going to ask? Forgive me? The shame has already been done. Why is it called malbim? To make him white? Because when a person is embarrassed, he turns red. If the shame and pain is greater, the red turns to white. It is as though he drained his blood. It is as though he killed it. It's like a rotzeach, like a murderer. In public, the shame, one has to be very, very careful. Not to insult, not to yell, because some people are very sensitive and they can be embarrassed or put to shame just from that. So one has to be careful with that. So Rachel was careful, of course, not to embarrass her sister Leah, and she was willing to forgo her turn. And that's why she gave over the codes to Rachel. What?
It's very, very different to woman to give her husband.
Yeah, sure. But eventually she married him. And that goes along with the story that I told you on Seudah Shlishit, that there was once a man in the house of Rabbi Elyahu Kin for Shabbat, and he had some wine and it poured and it spilled over the white tablecloth for Shabbat. So Rabbi Elyahu Kin shook the table and made his own cup of wine fall. And he says, "Oh, this table must not be too stable. It's shaking a lot." Not to embarrass to think that he only spilled or he spilled too. These were great tzaddikim. They were sensitive to people and were very, very careful not to embarrass others. Okay, the next point we also spoke about a little bit on Shabbat. Yaakov tells Lavan, nobody stole your teraphim. It was an idol that Lavan had. Nobody stole. We don't have it with us. He suspected. In reality, we all know that Rachel stole the teraphim. What does Yaakov do? How does he express himself to Lavan? Whoever took it, if it's true, lo yahyeh, will not live long. Will be punished for that. Unfortunately, words that are said are very powerful. One has to be very careful. Lo liftach ta pe la satan. Al tiftach pe la satan. Don't open up your mouth to the devil. That's what those words mean literally. Words that are said can be very powerful. A curse that is uttered, if it's at the right time, it will be listened to. And even if it's by a simple man, just like a blessing can come true from a simple man, so can a curse. And this is not a simple man. This is Yaakov Avinu of all people. If he said something, his words make an impression. Now, obviously, all this does is create an accusation. And for an accusation to work, there must be other problems. There must be other things. And this comes on top of it and causes a person to lose his life or to die early. So one has to be very, very careful in what he says. Not cursing his own family members. Sometimes you're mad, you're upset at a child, at your wife, or avoid. Be very, very careful. There's a special malach that listens to the word. He grabs the words, and those words can be used against you. How do we know Yaakov learned his lesson? So I told you last week that the Chafetz Chaim says that when the brothers came back from Mitzrayim, and Yosef gave him a hard time. Yaakov could have easily cursed this man who's giving my boys a hard time. If he would have been cursing his own son. Right? He did not know. Imagine, they're coming back. He suspects us of being spies. He's giving us a hard time. He's imprisoned Shimon. He wants Binyamin now. Yaakov could have gotten mad and upset, and he could have cursed him. No, this time he was careful. He knew what could happen from a curse.
What was the intention to take the father's therapy? What was the intention?
But the intention of Rachel was to remove him from Avodah Zarah, to distance him from Avodah Zarah. That was one of the reasons. No. Another explanation is that he should not know where they are, because the Teraphim would have told him where they went, where Yaakov went. Yeah. So there are various explanations of why she did it. Yeah, sure. There is power in witchcraft, in all these kishufim, in all these kochot tum'ah, powers of impurity, pure sources. Yeah.
So why did you?
Because he believed in the powers too. Why not? He wants to have the cake and eat it too. Well, everything.
Was Yaakov back to curse? Is there a way of taking back the curse?
I don't know if he found out immediately that she took it. But even if he did, words that are said cannot be taken back. It's very difficult. That's why the tongue and the teeth were placed in the mouth, the rabbis tell us. They should act as barriers. Before you say a word, think about it. Because you can't retract it, you can't take it back so easily. Or you can kill a person with words, right? Right, exactly. Kalibaret, huh? Yeah. And the same, we talked about a person who uses abusive language. Abusive language is also misusing one's mouth. That can also cause problems. As I said, the Gemara mentions that Kol HaMenabel et Piv, whoever uses abusive language, Afilu nechtam alav, even if he was decreed that he should have 70 good years, Kora'im etzeh, they tear apart the bad decree. They tear apart the good decree. Only because he uses abusive language. So by using regularly abusive language, nibul peh, that can also bring problems, to give a person a lot of trouble. The words are very powerful. Words, whether they're used in prayer or whether they're used in some way which is not kosher. Insulting people, lying to people. There's so much power in the mouth, in words. Okay, I want to spend a few minutes that we have left for one of the most fascinating parts of the Parasha Vayetze, and it happens to be in the very beginning, but I left it to the end. It's a very important, very significant part of the Parasha. And that is the part that deals with the Sulam. Yaakov has a dream of angels going up and down. What do these angels represent? The various empires that will exist. He sees the minister of Madai, southern Persia, or northern Persia, central Persia. It was a part of Persia. He sees the minister of Madai going up 52 steps. That's how long it lasted. Malchut Madai. He sees the minister of Greece going up 180 steps and then coming back down. It only lasted 180 years. He sees empires going up and going down. And finally he sees the minister of Edom going up many steps, unending, and doesn't see him coming down. And that's where he got concerned. And Hashem had to reassure him, don't worry, even him I will bring down. Even if he went as high as he went, and he will go very high, and he's very high, I will still bring him down. And he will be at the end, Acharit Yamim, before Mashiach comes. Who is he referring to? America. Yes, for sure. Because what's Edom? Edom is the last empire before Mashiach, the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire never fell. It only broke up in pieces. You have parts of it in Europe, you have parts of it in America. It's all over. What's proof that America is Edom? America is a superpower today. It's a continuation, an extension of Rome. There will always be a power. There were always powers. Who were the powers before America that were extensions of Edom? Britain, Spain and Portugal. That's all Edom. It's all Europe. It's all Christianity. Right? Russia was never really a real empire, but it also is part of Edom. Ottoman Empire too. Understand? Germany, sure. This is all Edom, different aspects of Edom, and an extension of the Roman Empire. Christianity, basically. Christianity for the most part. They will be the dominant force, especially before Mashiach comes. So what Hashem is saying, even they will come down. What does this tell you? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry there's no ladies here, but gentlemen, what does this tell you? That even this country that has reached the greatest heights in the world, of any other empire in the world, and sophistication and technology, they are also coming down. They all have to come down. That is our tradition. Everybody comes down, and only Mashiach will be forever. Nothing goes up forever. And what you're seeing right now are signs. They're only signs of this power coming down. What can we do? That's life. So don't be so certain that this is the best place to invest and to live, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The point is that Yaakov was seeing all of this for a good reason. Why Yaakov? Why didn't Yitzhak have this dream? Why does Yaakov have this dream? And why now? Because Yaakov represents the Jewish people. It is from him that the Jewish nation was formed, from his kids. Not only does he represent the Jewish people, but everything that happened to Yaakov is representative of what will happen to the Jewish nation. All the troubles that he had, the separation from his child, it all is symbolic of things to happen. And each one can be interpreted. Not only what happened to Yaakov, but what happened to Yosef too. Being thrown into the pit, being sold to Egypt. All of this is representative of the Jewish nation. Why is this being told to Yaakov now? Yaakov is about to get married. He's about to form the Jewish nation. What will happen to the Jewish nation? They will be scattered all over the diaspora. They will be ruled over by many nations. They will be oppressed and depressed, and seeing how things are and how they're treated. And what should they know and what should they remember? That even though these guys are up there, sooner or later they're going to come down. So this is an important lesson to Yaakov, which in turn is an important lesson to his children. All of these nations, all of these ministers going up, they don't last forever.
He explained this to his kids.
Yaakov told a lot of things to his kids. Sure, in Parashat Vayetze, he tells everybody what his destiny is, what his fate is, what will happen to them.
But when you read it just superficially,
right,
you think it's the angel from Israel who came to deceive him, the other angels are going away,
What? Yeah.
We didn't know it represents the empires, all these empires.
Yeah. But anyway, this is what will happen before Mashiach comes. The Gemara says, I think it's a Midrash actually, that when Mashiach comes, Esav will attempt to put on a talit and join the tzaddikim, and Hashem kicks him out. You don't belong there. What is this meaning of the Midrash? So I once explained that the most important event that happened after the destruction of the Second Temple is what? The birth of Christianity. Right? That's what happened. Up until then, most of the nations in the world were pagan. You had monotheism only by the Jews. Then you had Christianity, then you had Islam. Right? So what's happening? Why did they become all of a sudden religious? Esav, that is perhaps related to this Midrash. Esav is attempting to prove to Hashem, your children sinned. They took the Bechorah from me, they wanted to serve you, but they sinned. And that is why they're in the Galut. I want to prove to you that I can do a better job. That is what the religion is. What is Islam? The Jews pray 3 times, we'll pray 5 times today. They fast 1 day a year, we'll fast 40 days a year. Ramadan. Huh? You see? They're trying to outdo the Jew. And to be that is a source of kitrug on Am Yisrael Khalila. Hashem at the end throws them out. Because Esav is a tzavua. He's a hypocrite. He's not truthful. Ishmael is Pere Adam. The Torah already told us what will be with Ishmael. Pere Adam is a wild man. Yeah, like I saw an article today, a nice article, that Laura Bush, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
She was giving a speech about how important this war in Afghanistan is. Why? Because the Taliban mistreat their women. They don't let them sing. And if they smile, they get hit. And they don't let them study, and they don't let them go in the street by themselves. What's wrong with that statement? It's completely false. It's not the Taliban, it's Islam. In Saudi Arabia, women can't drive. They don't have equal rights. It's not this one group. It's that whole religion is like that.
Same in Iran.
What? Sure.
Same in Egypt.
Exactly. So the whole faith is like that. And as the Chafetz Chaim told a Jew who was making Aliyah, who was moving to Eretz Israel, he came to say goodbye. Chafetz Chaim tells him, just remember, when you go to Eretz Israel, you will encounter Yishmael. And you know what? Even if this Yishmael is wearing a tuxedo with a nice tie, he's still a Yishmael and he's still a Pere Adam. I don't care if he's a college professor and he has a balding head and looks intelligent with his glasses and dresses well. He's still a Pere Adam. Just remember that. Torah says so. These nations will remain the way they are.
But they pray to the same God, right?
Right. They have certain zechuyot. He's a son of Yitzchak. Of Abraham Avinu. Sorry. And Esav is the son of Yitzchak. They all have certain zechuyot. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when Mashiach comes, will show the world, will reveal to the world the hypocrisy behind what they did. Israel, you can't do this. You can't assassinate terrorists. You can't go. For us, it's mutar. We can do anything we want in Afghanistan. Did you see the difference? How they're handling the situation? To them, everything's mutar. There's a lot of hypocrisy. Tremendous amount of hypocrisy. There's no emet. As the Rebbe Mechabad, I think he told the new ambassador from Israel, he told somebody that in this house, in the United Nations, it's all full of lies. This house is full of lies. There's no emet. There's no emet whatsoever. So that is, unfortunately, one of the biggest problems that the world is suffering from today. And that is exactly one of the things that will come out when Mashiach comes. The truth will come out. And one of those pieces of truth will be why the Jewish people suffered. Why did Hashem scatter them into the diaspora? Not because He hated them, not because He abandoned them, only because they sinned. There was a reason for it.
Which sin is that? Again?
No, the various things. The Churban, Beit Rishon, Beit Sheni. Why did this happen? For the various sins that had happened. It's not because He abandoned them. And He didn't replace them, and He promised that He will never replace them. A person who's honest, and we're going back to the point of honesty and truthfulness, who's honest and is truthful, he reads the Torah, he reads the Tanakh, which is the holiest book in the world, to many, many nations and people. And it's been translated in more languages than anything else. And it has always been the bestseller. This book, if you read it from A to Z, from the first page to the end, and you're open-minded and you're honest, you can't but be impressed. This is the only people in the world, and the only religion that criticizes itself. The book, their own book, criticizes them. Not only does it criticize them, their leader is criticized by Hashem. Everybody else protects themselves, defends themselves, make themselves like gods. Right? This is the only religion that criticizes themselves.
And he was the biggest
and records all their sins. What does that tell you? It's all emet. There's no room for sheker.
And he was the biggest in the world, Moshe.
Sure, he was the biggest in the world. Yeah. Anyway, so this is an important dream that Yaakov has, because this will be a source of encouragement to all of Am Yisrael, that even though we're at the bottom now, we're not on top, the time is fast approaching, B'ezrat Hashem, and we're living in that generation where you will see Am Yisrael rise back to what they were. Raise them. And with the rulership of Mashiach, we will rule the world. Not that we will rule, Hashem will rule, but we as the servants of Hashem will be His representatives, His true ambassadors. Until now it was not too obvious. It was meant to be like that all along, but it was not too obvious because we didn't do our job. But when Mashiach comes and takes over and rebuilds the Bet HaMikdash, it will become very obvious to everybody, whoever's left over. But unfortunately, at that time, there will be no more time to do teshuvah. Right? It's too late. Things are too obvious.
Have to pay.
Now is the real test. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So Yaakov Avinu, in seeing the dream of the Malachim Olim veYordim, what he's really seeing is a picture of what will happen over the years. And this is important at the time that the Jewish nation is being formed. It's giving us an idea of what to expect. That a nation goes up and goes down, everything is b'cheshbon. Hashem knows how long it will last. And it doesn't mean that Hashem wanted it to last so long. Many, many times it's because of their own averot. If the Greeks would have behaved themselves, it could have lasted longer. Right? Hashem brings them all down at the end. When did the Spanish start going down? After they expelled the Jews. And why did the Turk accept the Jews? Because he knew that Spanish king is crazy. I want them.
And he became Ottoman Empire.
You see, he was open-minded. Why be so stupid with your religion and try to convert them? Don't you realize what they're doing? Right? So the Turk was smart. They, of course, Turkey flourished after that. See? Unfortunately, not everybody got the message.
When Yaakov went to Egypt, the famine stopped.
The famine stopped when Yaakov came to Egypt.
Jews go somewhere.
Wherever they went, and that is the beracha that Abraham received. In Parashat, Lech Lecha.
Every morning you pray.
With this we'll finish. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curse you. All those nations where you will live amongst them will be blessed as a result of your presence. These are the facts of life. Everything is pre-recorded.
That's one of the
Why?
empires, Egyptian. Was it a big empire?
Yeah, Egypt, Mitzrayim, sure. Yeah. But anyway, we are the generation of Mashiach, and we're going to see things unfold in a way that our grandfathers could never have imagined, unless, of course, they read the script, and the script is written in the Tanakh. But it was very remote 100 years ago to think that soon we will have back Eretz Israel. There will be 6 million Jews living there. Right now, it's a little over 5 million, right? And we will be a flourishing economy, even though we still have some problems. But it was hard to imagine. But this is what the Nevi'im saw. Hashem let us know in advance what will happen. So there are no surprises. Whoever learns what the prophets wrote should not be surprised on what is coming. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to hear good news soon.
Amen.